Hey, everybody, welcome back to another episode of Confessions of a Male Gynecologist. I am your host, Shawn Tassone, America's Holistic Gynecologist, and private practice doctor in Austin, Texas, and author of the Hormone Balance Bible that you can get on Amazon for about $14. It's about 500 pages. Top 12 hormone imbalances in women. I also have a YouTube page that I would love for you to go subscribe to because I do put a lot of these podcasts on there, but I also show you, I have lives over there. I do more content over there. I share all my Instagram stuff over there as well. So there's tons of stuff for you to see, do, hear, taste, touch, smell. No, not that much, but what you'll find is, and those of you that follow me on Instagram probably already know this, amidst doing all of the things that I already like to do and talk about, I feel obligated at times to talk about the scammy things that are out there in the public eye, the people that I know, because this wellness community isn't that deep. And people even that seemingly are at the top, I know, or I know of, or I've bumped into because it's not a very big community. So I know a lot of their history. I know a lot of their habits. I know the way that they do things. And I feel like there is a word that has been going around now for the past, I don't know, 15 years, maybe 12 years called biohacking. And I always joke that when you see the word biohack, you should run away because that tells you that there's some hard sell coming, there's some product. And if you look at the world of biohacking, every probably quarter, there is a new trend. There's a new word, there's a new device, there's a new supplement, there's a new chemical compound. And it rides for about 3 months. And then these scammers will move on to bigger and better fields where they can make money. So what they'll do is they'll completely obliterate some topic and they will milk it for all it's worth. And then they'll move on to the next thing. I'm not going to talk about it too much today, but one of those things right now, as I record this in April of 2025, is nicotine, because some scammy chiropractor named Dr. Artis, I use the word doctor very lightly with him, is pushing the fact that nicotine has decreased astrocytomas and glioblastomas, or brain tumors, in we should be using it as an IV or as a patch. And people are scared of cancer, so they buy into this stuff. And the reality is, the one study that he's discussing was in mice. So first of all, it's worthless in humans because we're not mice. Also, nicotine is a highly addictive chemical, so he doesn't talk about that. But they don't talk about that because I'm sure they're going to come up with a supplement that's going to have nicotine in it. And as such, they're going to make a shit ton of money before people realize that it really didn't do anything for them, or they had side effects or something else. But I'm not going to talk about nicotine today because I really want to go into that topic on its own. But a lot of these things I am going to talk about today, you're going to recognize because they were the word of the quarter. And if you remember, about 10 years ago, there was this guy, and unfortunately, he's still out there scamming people, Dave Asprey. Dave has basically absolutely no medical background. He apparently, his claim to fame is that he was overweight and he kind of fixed himself. But basically, what Dave did was he figured out that in other countries, they added fat to their coffee. And so he brought the fat coffee back to the States, and he was at a health and wellness conference, and he was the coffee guy. Like, you know how when you go to a conference and there's breaks and there's coffee out in the foyer? Well, JJ Virgin hired Dave to be the coffee guy. And he was around a bunch of other kind of health and wellness people, and they all thought the coffee was great. And again, started making claims that the coffee could help you lose weight, that it's going to help improve brain function because the MCTs, or the medium chain triglycerides, are going to help your brain function. It's going to be a way to break your fast in the morning. So everyone started putting butter in their coffee, me included. I did it for a long time. Didn't make me lose any weight. I don't think I felt any different, but I just jumped on the bandwagon. And actually, putting butter in my coffee probably increased my LDLs and my triglycerides, but that's beside the point. Point being is that Dave then became superhumanly famous. He developed his own coffee. He also has that claim, and you'll see a bunch of people out there making these claims that coffee's full of mold, so you have to buy all the coffee. Here's my question. If coffee was full of mold and was so horrible, how did we live for an entire generation without these mold-free coffees? How did we live for an entire generation without knowing to put butter in our coffee? It's complete stupidity. People follow blindly because there's two things here. If you're just doing it because it's fun and you want to try it, that's great. I think that's great. Try it. Have fun with it. But to make false claims, and what happens is these things move so fast that the FDA really doesn't even have time to respond, because they could make a false claim or two like Dave does all the time. And they then move on to the next topic 2 months later. So they've moved on. By the time the FDA probably gets a complaint, follows up on it, does the research, it's probably 6 to 12 months. This is now old news, and they just move on because nothing. It's a great system these scammers have developed. And all that matters to these people is money. All that matters to them is prestige. I've been in the back rooms with them at business meetings. The more money you make, the more popular you are. It has nothing to do with whether or not what you're doing is helping people. It has nothing to do with whether or not you're onto something amazing that's going to revolutionize healthcare. It's about making money. Because here's the thing, then they have Dave on their podcast, then they can have Dave talk about this and that, and he can push their product. And if you noticed, Asprey and some of these other guys, that's all they do now is promote products. Another big scammer out there, in my opinion, is Ben Greenfield, who's in the health and fitness area. Obviously a very buff guy. He obviously has known how to work his body to get it to optimum peak potential, but he sells everything, anything and everything. I really think he basically sells everything that's high ticket item. Anytime you go on this guy's Facebook page, he's selling something different. And that's how you know they're scammers. If they're constantly selling you something that's different every 2 months, they've got some different thing they're selling. It's because they have worked that option out. They've got 100, 200, 300,000 email lists, and they can just make money because people, for some reason, will buy whatever they tell them to buy. Even though they bought the last 10 things that didn't do shit, they're going to keep buying stuff because they just trust these people, and there's absolutely no way to trust them. I personally wouldn't trust any of them. The second thing, so fat coffee ran its course. The second thing I'd like to talk about is the hydrogen water. You see these all over the place. Now, let's not forget that water is H2O, hydrogen. There's 2 molecules of hydrogen in every molecule of water. Hydrogen is water, H2O, but yet hydrogen water is a thing. I don't know why. I have friends that have fallen prey to this. It's gained a lot of popularity for its purported health benefits. However, there's no scientific evidence to support the claims. If there is any, it's extremely limited, and it's an overblown marketing tactic once again. And there's no science. The research on hydrogen water is still in its early stages. Now, maybe it'll pan out, but right now it doesn't. They also claim that it has antioxidant effects, and this is a key selling point, but scientists actually disagree on this. Or even the fact that needing to take antioxidants is essential. Even if hydrogen lowers inflammation in lab studies, the lab studies are done in animals, and this may not be true in humans. So again, we're taking a nugget of truth and we're building a mountain out of marketing. That's exactly how you know it's a scam, is because that's what these people do. And that's why what happens is they'll take a topic and they'll beat the shit out of it, and then they'll eventually move on. And the problem is they're moving on because they've milked it for all they can. So there's no large scale studies. The benefits are potential, and there's absolutely no proven benefits. There's a lot of overhyped claims with hydrogen water. The companies and the individuals that make these claims, there's no negative repercussions. They say what they want. And basically, if there's any benefit that comes from this water, It's because you're drinking more water. I mean, let's not be stupid. Again, ask yourself this. How did we as a medical society not know that hydrogen enriched water was beneficial? And then what they'll do is they'll use the claims like either your doctor doesn't know because they're stupid, or your doctor doesn't want to know because doctors only make money if people are sick. Well, what are these people? How do they make money? They make money off of sick, vulnerable people that they're scamming, which to me makes them disgusting and despicable. Every one of these people that I mention in my podcast, I hope there's a certain level of hell for them. Maybe we should rewrite Dante's Inferno and put these people in there. I would love to expose every last single one of them for the frauds that they are. Let's go on to the next trend. Actually, that's somewhat current right now is methylene blue. Methylene blue, and you'll see these influencers. You saw RFK putting it in some water. It's basically the blue dye. It's been used in medicine for over a century. It's FDA approved for certain medical conditions such as methemoglobinemia, which is a rare blood disorder. However, there's some recent claims that are being made in the wellness community that methylene blue can treat Alzheimer's, autism, cancer, heart disease, HIV, and COVID. There's absolutely no credible scientific evidence to support any of those claims. In fact, some studies that have shown methylene blue can be harmful at high doses. And actually, on the internet now, you're seeing a lot of people that have had autopsies done after they've died. Their brains are blue, their hearts are blue, their spleens are blue, everything's turning blue. And if you think that that's abnormal, that's because it is. And what people don't understand is that these are medications that should be used in specific quantities. These people are running around with their blue tongues are ridiculous. It's because they're either taking testosterone, and guys, their testosterone levels are too high. And again, there isn't as much hype on methylene blue, and I'll tell you why. Because it's a medicine, right? So you can buy it on Amazon, but it's a little harder to get, so they're not claiming all these things about it. But if you hear about methylene blue, you can die from methylene blue toxicity. So I would be extremely careful. And there's actually no evidence to support its use for any of the things that they're saying that it should be used for. Next big one are cold plunges. So to say a cold plunge is a scam is a little bit oversimplified. It's not a scam. We know that, I mean, look at athletes. They've been doing cold plunges forever. But these are high precision athletes that push their bodies to the limits. And of course, putting them in a cold bath can improve some of their muscle soreness, can help post-workout muscle soreness, can help, help maybe with resilience, mood, and improve sleep. But what happened was they took it the next step. So now every company out there is making a cold plunge bath. The scammers like Gary Brecka, who has basically a college education at a crappy college, basically thinks that he's an expert in biohacking and human biology because he took a biology class in college, has no medical training whatsoever. Again, whenever these people, there's probably 10 of them out there, I've already named a few of them. Whenever they start supplementing with something like, oh, I'm making my own cold plunge. You don't need to buy it, but I just happen to make one. That's a scam. That's how you know it's a scam, because they're just trying to make the next $1 million. That's what they're all about. Like I said, I've been in back rooms with a lot of these people. It's all about money and not about you. So what are the potential risks, complications of using methylene blue? Many are using the cold plunges. They're not supported by any robust scientific evidence. There's not a lot of research on them out there. It can actually impair your muscle growth if you do it too much. So people that are weight training and things like that, if you're doing it too much, you could actually impair your muscle growth. If you have high blood pressure or heart problems, there are some reports out there of people having strokes and heart attacks because of the shock of getting in the cold water. One of the big, I don't know, I probably would call him a little scammer, is Wim Hof, the guy who, talks about his breathing stuff. I really appreciate, but his cold thing, I just don't get. And the thought with these, again, the grain of truth is that if you expose the body to extreme heat or extreme cold, you make shock proteins, and these shock proteins can help you actually live longer. But that doesn't mean you should be cold every day for 5 minutes, sitting in freezing water. And you can also do your own cold plunge at home if you just turn your shower to cold. Actually, moving water would actually make it more difficult than a still water like you sit in with a bathtub. So the science just doesn't support any of it. Some people can be at risk. You can have a rapid increase in breathing, heart rate, blood pressure, known as the cold shock response. And this can be dangerous for some people. Some people have gotten hypothermia because they sit in there for too long. And again, cold plunging in and of itself isn't a scam. It does have some deliberate actions, but this is a sense of deliberate deception, in the sense that people are saying that it does more than it really does. And they don't tell people how to do any of this stuff safely. And they don't care because they just want you to buy their product. Another one that was about 2 years ago was mouth taping. The thought process being you have to tape your lips closed and just breathe through your nose, and that this would solve all of your problems. And then you even had companies that came out with glorious black tape that would fit over your mouth. I think it's hilarious that people would buy tape to put on their lips to close their mouths when they could just use tape. But then the questions that came out at night for people were, what if you have sleep apnea? What if you're morbidly obese and you have issues with sleeping, or you have asthma, or you have a stuffy nose? Their counter to that was that, oh, you just need to try harder. That whole thing, you're doing it wrong. Basically, there's no solid evidence to support mouth taping. One study found that people still breathe through their mouths even with the tape on. And there was some mild sleep apnea improvement in one small study of about 30 subjects. But again, the fact that you can still breathe around the tape, or that you can breathe through pursed lips, or that you're still breathing through your nose, it's just a stupid thing that unfortunately has gained a lot of attention. Now, the thing about mouth taping that's interesting is it's not super expensive. So I'm not like horribly opposed to it, because you can actually tape your mouth and not pay $1 bazillion. And if it works for you, great. If it doesn't work for you, you're not out a ton of money. Unlike buying a cold plunge or something like that, which is going to cost you $100, probably more. I think I saw one the other day that was $6,000 that you can put in your house that stays constantly cold. Now, I will say I've done a cold plunge. And I liked it. I've done it twice in my life. And I think the reason that I liked it was because it's a challenge, right? It's like you against the elements. Can you do it? And it's kind of like when Tony Robbins used to have people walk on hot coals. It's the work up to it. And then when you do it, it's a sense of accomplishment. The people around you that have done it welcome you to the tribe. It's a very societal thing, human bonding and whatnot. So I think that's part of the cold plunge thing. It's like all these people sitting in cold water, laughing, talking about, how they feel and stuff like that. But it's not going to give you any specific health benefits, would be what I would say would be the take home, message on cold plunges. And then on mouth taping, there's a new guy on the internet right now. He used to be an ex-NFL player, and he's in that high-rise apartment that I've heard that he can't pay for, and he's going bankrupt. But then he puts his face in the cold water that has fizzy water. And again, he takes the mouth tape off in the morning. Doesn't help. What about these energy blocking stickers? You've seen them everywhere. People put them on their phones. They put them in their houses. They talk about, how you can protect yourself against the radiation of your phone, and maybe not get hit with all these, radio waves and all these other waves. Radiation, basically they're radiation protectors, and they're not cheap. The little patches you stick on your phone, I think, are $25, but you can buy these things for your houses that are like thousands of dollars, and they look cool, but they don't do anything. And again, how have we lived as a society for so long? We've had internet now for probably 20 years. We've had microwaves for, gosh, most of my life, and I'm 57. And yet somehow we've survived without these blockers. So if you look at the RF, the radiation scams, the FTC, the Federal Trade Commission, has actually warned a lot of these companies, Smart Dot, Bio Dot, because they're saying that they're making false claims. They're saying they harmonize harmful energy, they block radiation, they boost immunity and mental clarity. These are scams because they don't do any of that. Gives you a false sense of security, diverts attention from real solution, and it erodes trust in the public. So I think the thing about it is you have to be and I say this all the time, you have to be an informed consumer, because these little stickers are out there that are only $25. In worst case scenario, like I said, you're out $25 and it's not going to hurt anything, but it's not going to protect you. That whole concept, because Paul Saladino, who's another one of my top 5 scammers, Paul says that cell phones are going to cause brain cancer. Well, one, there hasn't really ever been a study to show that. But here's the thing. We don't even use cell phones anymore up against our heads like we used to. We talk by speaker, we talk by Bluetooth devices and whatnot. So it's not even up there anymore. But let's just say it was cancer causing. Why aren't we seeing a bunch of people with cancer in their hands and their legs because they set their phones there all the time? I hold my phone all day long. Why aren't we seeing more hand bone cancer or skin cancer of the hands if that were the case? And it's not. We don't see that because it doesn't apply. It's a scam. And they're scamming you because they want to sell you something. And with those patches and whatnot, they're trying to sell you this promise that you're going to live a happy, healthy life. Another thing that's a real scam right now, and I can't tell you how many times a day I have people text me about like these stem cell patches or these LifeWave X39 patches. This might be one of the biggest scams of the last 5 to 6 years. These patches are multi-level marketing. They'll call it something different, but it's multi-level marketing. You have a downline, you make money, and you can tell because it's a cult. When you talk to these people, it's culty. These patches basically have nothing in them but light therapy. And we can put these together with the light patches. There's also patches out there that are infused with light, and the light's supposed to be reflected back into your body, blah, blah, blah. Complete trash, total garbage. The health claims, here are some of the claims the LifeWave patch tends, you can activate your stem cells. It's a patented phototherapy designated to elevate peptide, known to elevate stem cells. They don't mention the peptide. Supports relief of minor aches and pains. Well, so does just time. More energy and better sleep. Well, we all sleep better and we have more energy from time to time. Supports the natural wound healing process. The only way you can check that is if you got a wound before and after. Maintains a healthy inflammatory response. Healthy inflammatory response. Basically, nothing there is of substance. They have absolutely no solid clinical data. When I looked to review things, there are some PubMed pages out there that are about LifeWave patches. None of the papers provide concrete evidence. LifeWave themselves, they point to clinical studies, but they're not very convincing studies. It's one of those things where, it caught a little celebrity attention. Suzanne Summers, God rest her soul, was a proponent of them. She has a huge following, so naturally people are going to follow it. But I would put LifeWave patches up there again. Genetic testing kits a la Gary Brecka. Now, this is, again, taking a nugget of truth and building a mountain out of it. Gary Brecka, again, total scammer, has absolutely no medical training. He says, because I've heard him say this, that he can predict when you're going to die based on his genetic test. Well, it's a total, complete, made-up lie. Genetic testing for people and women and families that have histories of breast cancer, colon cancer, lung cancer, prostate cancer, that's legit because we do know genetics. But what he's talking about is totally made up. The genetic predisposition for you to feel better if you do this or if you take this supplement, that's total garbage. And he knows what he's doing. He's making stuff up and he's lying to people. And he lies because you'll buy it. And here's the thing. If you buy you buy one and 100,000 other people buy one, he's made $2 million. He moves on to the next topic. It's all part of the plan. It's a scam. He's a scammer. In my opinion, all these people are scamming. Another one who I mentioned is Paul Saladino, and then his compadre, the Liver King. These are two guys. Paul Saladino is a psychiatrist, and he talks about carnivore diet. Now, this is a guy who has changed his name about 3 times in the last 5 years on Instagram because he keeps changing his diet because the one that he says is amazing doesn't work. So he and Liver King started these companies that sell beef organs, liver organs, spleen, intestine, brain, heart, kidneys, liver, stuff like that. So Liver King is a guy named Brian Johnson. He's a social media kind of fitness guy. He's been around for a while. He's got millions of people following him on Instagram. As I mentioned, Paul Saladino used to call himself Carnivore MD, but then he felt horrible on carnivore, so he had to start eating fruits and vegetables or vegetables. We know these guys are liars. We've caught Liver King in flat out lies saying he wasn't taking performance enhancing drugs when he was taking like $12,000 a month. And then they have a company called Ancestral Supplements. And basically what happens is he uses a nugget of truth. So yes, is eating beef organs good? What they did was they took homeopathic principles in the sense that they say like treats like. So if you have brain issues, if you have dementia, you should eat brains. If you have kidney issues, you should eat kidney. Do you not see the stupidity of these comments? But overall, they sell supplements. Now, you're not going to get enough of a issue here because you're not going to have enough in any of these capsules. You have to take 6 capsules a day of these supplements. They have one called Her Package. It's not Ancestral, it's Saladino's brand. Her Package is uterus, tubes, and ovaries. And I think a little bit of liver and stuff. Why on earth would eating a cow's uterus, tubes, and ovaries help a human female? And if your logic is that women need that because it makes them feel better, then why would we be eating a cow's uterus, tubes, and ovaries and not a human? Because we're not cows, we're humans. So their arguments fall flat on their face. They also like the concept of nose to tail farming, which is great. I think we should use all the cow or pig or whatever that we can. But again, what you notice is with these people is they will take a grain of sand and they'll turn it into a mountain and then they'll scare you into buying a supplement. Last thing I wanted to talk about were those, anytime you go to a store here in Austin, you're liable to see somebody with one of those continuous glucose monitors on their arm. First of all, they do it because they want you to see it. Second of all, it shows you that they are just prey and not predator because they've been preyed on and they bought the product. You knowing what your glucose levels are after you eat something, you see it on Instagram, TikTok, there's people that do this. It's not consistent. You don't know if the machine is legitimate. Even if it was, is that technically information you need to know? You could always just do a hemoglobin A1C every 3 to 6 months, and that would tell you what your glucose control was 3 months prior to the lab draw. Problem is, people just listen blindly. They spend money blindly. Everybody's looking for the quick fix. And I'm going to tell you, I've been in rooms with these people. They know your pain points. They know where you're hurting. They know how to get to you. They know how to get under your skin, and they know how to get you to buy. I think it's a shameful way to live your life as one of them. But like I said, they're laughing all the way to the bank. So I just wanted to talk about some scams. I think biohacking in general is a scam. I think when you see the word biohacking or biohacking conference, um, it's just people going there to learn how to make a buck out of lying, in my opinion. But so is life. Remember, you can get my book, The Hormone Balance Bible, on Amazon. I'm seeing patients in Austin, Texas. I can do telemedicine visits. I can order labs anywhere. Feel free to give my office a call at 512-956-0296, and y'all have a great weekend.